Every species in the galaxy believed humans were weak until one classroom proved evolution rewards survival, not size. What you're about to witness isn't violence, it's a lesson in why Deathworld species should never be underestimated. Nobody told me humans were insane until after I watched one dismantle 10 of my classmates like they were training dummies. My name is Kelvor, and I am a Threndian, which means I have 4 arms, compound eyes that can see in 17 different spectrums, and enough common sense to know when someone is about to make a catastrophically stupid decision. Apparently, my Vexorian classmates did not share this last trait. The Galactic Military Academy on Praxis 7 is supposed to be the finest institution in the Federation. We have cadets from 43 different species, state-of-the-art facilities, and professors who have commanded fleets in actual wars. What we also have, apparently, is a severe shortage of survival instincts among certain students. It was third period, combat theory, with Instructor Ralax, a grizzled Korthan who had seen action in the Rebellion Wars. The classroom smelled like recycled air and the nervous pheromones of 70 different species crammed into tiered seating. Most of us were paying attention to the holographic display showing fleet formations. Most of us. The Vaxorians in the back row, however, had decided today was the perfect day to poke the human. That human being Jack Chen, the only Terran in our entire cohort. The Vaxorians are tall, proud, and chronically incapable of shutting up. Their species evolved on a high-gravity world, giving them dense muscle tissue and bones that could probably survive a shuttle crash. This makes them think they are the toughest beings in the galaxy. Spoiler alert, they are not. Drovak, the ringleader, had been needling Jack for weeks now. Little comments here and there, snide remarks about human fragility, jokes about their laughable lifespan of barely 100 cycles, observations about how soft and squishy they looked compared to proper warrior species. Jack, to his credit, had ignored every single one. He sat 3 rows ahead of me, his posture relaxed, taking notes on his datapad like Instructor Ralax was actually saying something interesting. His species has only 2 arms, which seems like a design flaw, and hair growing out of their heads in the strangest places, which seems like a hygiene nightmare. But he was always polite, always prepared, and apparently, always patient. Until today. Drovak leaned forward, his massive frame casting a shadow over the seats. "Hey, Chen," he hissed loud enough for half the class to hear. "I was reading about Earth last night. Your world is what, 70% water? And your species cannot even breathe in it? What kind of pathetic evolution is that?" His friends snickered. There were 10 of them in total, all Vexorians, all built like cargo haulers. Jack did not turn around, just kept writing. "In your gravity," another one chimed in, a female named Sheksara. 0.98 standard? My grandmother trains in higher gravity than that. How do you even build muscle? More laughter. "I heard humans need to sleep every single cycle," Drovak continued, warming to his theme. "Like babies. Do you need a nap, Chen? Should we get you a blanket?" The classroom had gone quiet now. Even Instructor Ralax had stopped talking, his 3 eyes fixed on the back row with an expression I could not quite read. Warning, maybe, or perhaps morbid curiosity. Jack finally stopped writing. He set down his datapad very carefully, very precisely. Then he turned around in his seat. His face was calm, too calm. Humans have these fascinating facial muscles that can convey 1,000 emotions. And right now Jack's were conveying absolutely nothing. "Are you finished?" he asked quietly. Drovak grinned, showing all his teeth. "Why, you going to do something about it, soft skin?" Jack stood up slowly. The movement was fluid, controlled, economical. He was not particularly tall by Vexorian standards, maybe average height for his species, with a lean build that Drovak and his crew probably mistook for weakness. "Sit down, human," Drovak said, rising from his own seat. His friend stood with him, forming a wall of muscle and arrogance. "Before you embarrass yourself, Jack," Instructor Ralax called out, his voice carrying a warning. "Return to your seat." Jack ignored him. His eyes, those strange forward-facing predator eyes that humans have, never left Drovak's face. "I am going to give you one chance," Jack said, his voice still quiet, still calm. "Apologize and sit down. We can forget this happened." Oh, how I wish Drovak had taken that offer. How I wish he had recognized the danger in that tone. But Vaxorians are proud, and stupid, and Drovak was particularly gifted at both. He laughed. Actually laughed. "Or what, Chen? You going to file a complaint? Run crying to the administration?" "Last chance," Jack repeated. Drovak's expression shifted then, from mocking to angry. He stepped forward, closing the distance between them in 2 long strides. You do not give me chances, human. You are weak. Your species is weak. Your entire planet is a backwater joke that only got into the Federation because you learned to build primitive jump drives. He shoved Jack hard, both hands against his chest. Jack stumbled back 2 steps, caught his balance, and smiled. It was not a friendly smile. It was the kind of smile that should have sent every survival instinct in Drovak's brain screaming at him to run. Instead, Drovak swung. That was his final mistake. The punch came fast. A heavy right hook that would have shattered the jaw of most species in the academy. Drovak had reach, power, and the confidence of someone who had never lost a fight. Jack ducked under it like he had known it was coming. Then he did something that made absolutely no sense from a tactical standpoint. Instead of retreating, creating distance, calling for help, or doing any of the reasonable things a smaller opponent should do, he stepped in closer, right into Drovak's guard, and drove his elbow up into Drovak's throat. The sound was wet and crunchy. Drovak made a choking noise, staggered back, hands flying to his neck. His eyes went wide with shock and pain. Jack did not wait. He pivoted, his leg sweeping out in a low arc that caught Drovak behind the knees. Despite his size, despite his high-gravity world muscles, Drovak went down hard. The floor shook when he hit it. 1 down, 9 to go. 5 seconds elapsed. The classroom exploded into chaos. Sheksara came at Jack from the left, screaming something in Vaxorian that my translator refused to process. She was faster than Drovak, and her claws were extended. Vaxorians have retractable claws on each of their 4 fingers, designed for climbing their world's crystalline mountains. They can shred through most materials. Jack turned, saw her coming, and did not even try to block. Instead, he grabbed a datapad from the nearest desk and hurled it at her face. It hit her square in the eye cluster. She howled, stumbled, and Jack closed the distance before she could recover. He grabbed her extended arm, twisted it in a direction arms should not twist, and used her own momentum to slam her face first into the desk. Once, twice. The third impact left a dent in the metal surface. She slumped to the floor, unconscious. 2 down. 10 seconds. I want to be clear about something here. I have 4 arms. I have studied combat for 3 cycles at this academy. I have trained in zero-gravity fighting, weapon systems, and tactical hand-to-hand. I was watching this happen from less than 5 meters away, and I could barely track Jack's movements. Humans are supposed to be slow. Their reaction times are documented as average. Their strength unremarkable. Their durability laughable compared to species like the Vaxorians or the Korthans. But Jack was moving like the training videos we watch of apex predators. Efficient, brutal, precise. 3 more Vaxorians rushed him simultaneously, trying to use their numbers advantage. Smart strategy, poor execution. Jack dropped low. And I mean impossibly low, his body folding in ways that should not be anatomically possible. The first Vaxorian's punch sailed over his head. Jack sprang up, driving the top of his skull into the underside of the Vaxorian's jaw. The crack echoed through the classroom. Humans have thick skulls, apparently. Thicker than I realized. The Vaxorian's head snapped back and he crumpled. 3 down. 15 seconds. The second of the trio grabbed Jack from behind, arms wrapping around his torso in a crushing bear hug. Vaxorians can exert pressure, equivalent to a hydraulic press. I have seen them bend steel bars during strength training. Jack did not struggle against the hold. Instead, he threw his head back, slamming it into his captor's face. Once, twice, 3 times. Blood, bright purple Vaxorian blood, splattered across both of them. The grip loosened. Jack dropped his weight, slipped down through the weakened hold, spun, and drove his fist into the Vaxorian's knee. The joint bent sideways with a sound like breaking branches. The Vaxorian screamed, fell, and Jack silenced him with a brutal kick to the temple. 4 down. 20 seconds. The third of the group hesitated. Fatal mistake. Jack grabbed him by his uniform collar, yanked him forward, and delivered 3 rapid punches to his midsection. I could hear the air explode from the Vaxorian's lungs. Jack finished with an uppercut that lifted him off his feet. 5 down. 25 seconds. Instructor Ralix was shouting now, trying to push through the crowd of students who had all pressed back against the walls. Security alarms were blaring. Half the class was screaming. The other half, like me, was frozen in horrified fascination. The remaining 5 Vaxorians had spread out, circling Jack like pack hunters. They were trying to coordinate, communicate with hand signals. Decent tactics. Jack just smiled that terrifying smile again. One of them tried to be smart, grabbing a chair and swinging it at Jack's head. Jack ducked, caught the chair on the backswing and ripped it from the Vaxorian's grip. Then he used it as a weapon, slamming it into the next closest attacker with enough force to bend the metal frame. 6 down. 32 seconds. He tossed the ruined chair aside and faced the remaining 4. 2 of them charged together, coordinated this time, coming from different angles. Jack grabbed the edge of a desk, the heavy Academy-issued ones that are bolted to the floor, and with a sound of shrieking metal he tore it loose. He swung it like a club. Both Vaxorians went down in a tangle of limbs and broken furniture. 8 down. 40 seconds. I need you to understand something. I was watching this happen. My brain was processing the visual information, but part of me refused to believe it. This was not supposed to be possible. Humans were weak, fragile, soft, except Jack Chen was standing in the middle of a classroom that looked like a natural disaster had hit it, breathing only slightly harder than normal, surrounded by unconscious Vaxorians, and he was not even bleeding. The 9th Vaxorian, a cadet named Throxel, who I had seen lift weights that would crush most species, tried a different approach. He grabbed a fire extinguisher from the wall and sprayed it at Jack's face, trying to blind him. Smart, creative, useless. Jack covered his eyes with one arm, charged through the chemical cloud and tackled Throxel around the waist. They hit the floor together, but Jack was on top, and what happened next was not a fight. It was educational violence. Punch, punch, punch. Each one measured, each one precise, each one delivered with the kind of cold efficiency that spoke of serious training. Throxel stopped moving. 9 down. 55 seconds. The last Vaxorian standing was a cadet named Vorgath. He was the smallest of the group, which still made him significantly larger than Jack, and the only one who seemed to have developed even a fraction of survival instinct. He raised his hands, palms out. "Wait," he said, his voice shaking. "Wait, I surrender. I do not want to fight. Please." Jack stood up slowly from Throxel's unconscious form. His uniform was torn, splattered with purple blood that was not his own, and his knuckles were bleeding. The first injury I had seen on him. He looked at Vorgath. Just looked. The classroom had gone completely silent except for the security alarms and the groaning of the wounded. "Smart choice," Jack said quietly. Then Instructor Ralex finally reached them, along with 3 security officers in full tactical gear. They had their stun weapons drawn, pointed at Jack. "Stand down, Cadet Chen," Ralex barked. "Hands where we can see them." Jack raised his hands slowly. No sudden movements, no aggression. His expression had shifted back to neutral, calm, like he had just finished a routine training exercise rather than dismantling 10 opponents in under a minute. "The fight is over, sir," Jack said respectfully. "They started it. I finished it." One of the security officers, a massive Korthan who probably outweighed Jack by a factor of 3, approached cautiously. He looked at the carnage, looked at Jack, looked at the 9 unconscious Vaxorians scattered around the room like discarded toys. "By the void," the officer whispered. "What are you?" Jack smiled then. A genuine smile this time, tired and maybe a little sad. "Human," he said simply. "Just human." They put restraints on him anyway. "Procedure," Ralex explained, though his 3 eyes kept darting between Jack and the wounded cadets with an expression that looked suspiciously like respect mixed with fear. As they led Jack out of the classroom, he passed my desk. Our eyes met for just a moment. "Sorry about the mess," he said. I could not respond. My translator was working fine. My vocal cords were functional, but my brain was still trying to process what I had just witnessed. 10 Vaxorians. Less than 60 seconds. 1 human. The medics arrived 3 minutes later, stretchers and medical equipment floating behind them. They started triaging the wounded, muttering to each other about concussions, broken bones, dislocated joints, and what one of them described as textbook combat trauma. Drovak was still on the floor, conscious now but holding his throat and making wheezing sounds. He looked up as they loaded him onto a stretcher, his eyes finding me in the crowd. I saw fear there. Raw, primal fear. He had started a fight with what he thought was prey. He had learned, the hard way, that humans are not prey. They are predators wearing friendly faces. The medical bay was chaos for the next 6 hours. I went there not because I was injured, but because I needed to see it with my own eyes. Needed confirmation that what happened in that classroom was real and not some kind of mass hallucination brought on by bad cafeteria food. It was real, painfully expensively real. Drovak had a fractured trachea and would need reconstructive surgery. Shexara had 3 broken facial bones and a severe concussion. Throxel had a broken jaw, 2 cracked ribs, and what the doctors called significant cranial trauma. The others had various broken bones, dislocated joints, internal bleeding, and enough bruising to paint a small ship. 10 trained military cadets from a high-gravity warrior species, all taken down by one human in less than 60 seconds. The medical staff kept shaking their heads, checking their instruments, rechecking the readings like the equipment was malfunctioning. One doctor, a Peltharian with 6 limbs and centuries of experience, just stood in the middle of the bay looking lost. "I have treated combat injuries from 3 wars," she said, to no one in particular. "These cadets look like they fought a squad of trained killers. One of them, just one." Vorgath, the only Vaxorian who had not actually fought, sat on a bed in the corner. He was physically fine but kept staring at his hands like they had betrayed him somehow. I approached him carefully. "Are you injured?" He looked up at me, and I saw something in his eyes I had never seen in a Vaxorian before. Shame. Yes, but also something deeper. Understanding. Maybe. "I almost fought him," Vorgath said quietly. "I was going to. But then I saw what he did to Throxel, the way he moved, and something in my brain just screamed at me to stop, to submit." "Smart decision," I said. "My ancestors were apex predators on our world." Vorgath continued, his voice distant. "We evolved hunting in packs, taking down creatures twice our size. We have instincts, deep ones, that tell us when we are facing another predator, when we are outmatched." He paused. "That human triggered every single one of those instincts." Before I could respond, Instructor Ralix entered the medical bay with 2 other Academy officials. One was Commandant Thex, a decorated Corthan admiral who ran the entire facility. The other was someone I did not recognize, a slim Centaurian female with data tablets floating around her head. They gathered the conscious Vaxorians together, along with myself and several other witnesses. What followed was not the dressing down I expected. Instead, it was a lecture. The Centaurian spoke first. Her name was Professor Liss, apparently the Academy's xenobiology specialist. "I want to show you something," she said, activating a holographic display. "This is Earth, Cadet Chen's homeworld." The planet rotated before us, blue and green and white, looking deceptively peaceful. "Earth is classified as a death world," Liss continued, "one of only 17 known planets in the Federation that falls into this category. The surface is populated by millions of species. Nearly all of them evolved for predation or survival against predators. The humans are not the strongest species on their planet. They are not the fastest, not the most venomous, not the best camouflaged." She pulled up images. Creatures with massive teeth, others with crushing coils, things with claws that made Vaxorian talons look like grooming tools. "So how did humans become the dominant species?" Liss asked. "Why are they the ones who built cities and spacecraft while these other creatures remained animals?" She changed the display, showing a human skeleton next to a Vaxorian one. "Humans evolved as persistence hunters. They can regulate their body temperature through water secretion, allowing them to run for hours, days even, chasing prey until it collapses from exhaustion. Their hands can manipulate tools with precision that most species require cybernetic enhancement to match. Their brains are wired for pattern recognition, tactical thinking, and creative problem solving." Another image. A human brain, sections lighting up. "But most importantly," Liss said, her voice taking on an edge, "humans evolved in an environment of constant threat. They developed stress response systems that flood their bodies with performance-enhancing chemicals during danger. Adrenaline, cortisol. Their pain tolerance increases. Their reaction time improves. Their strength output can exceed normal limits by significant margins." She looked directly at Drovak, who was watching from his medical bed, a device around his throat helping him breathe. "What you fought today was not just Cadet Chen. You fought millions of years of evolution designed specifically for survival against overwhelming odds. You attacked a persistence predator, a tool-using problem solver, a creature whose ancestors hunted animals 10 times their size using nothing but endurance and intelligence." Commandant Thex stepped forward. "The Academy will be implementing new protocols immediately. All cadets will be required to take xenobiology courses with emphasis on species capability assessment. There will be mandatory cultural sensitivity training, and there will be severe, career-ending consequences for anyone who initiates violence against another cadet." He paused, his expression hard. "Cadet Chen has been cleared of all charges. Self-defense, justified force, proportional response." The review board's decision was unanimous. He glanced at the wounded Vaxorians. "You are all being placed on academic probation. One more incident, and you will be expelled." Drovak tried to speak, but his damaged throat only produced a wheeze. "Save it," Sek said coldly. "You picked a fight with a human and lost. Be grateful you are alive." His species has been fighting for survival since before your civilization discovered fire. You never stood a chance." The meeting ended. The officials left. The medical staff returned to their patients. I stood there, my 4 arms hanging uselessly at my sides, my worldview completely shattered. Everything I thought I knew about humans was wrong. Everything. 3 weeks have passed since the incident and the Academy has not stopped talking about it. The footage, because of course there was footage from the classroom security systems, has been classified by the administration. Too late though. Copies circulated through the student network within hours. I have watched it 17 times now, and each viewing reveals something new: a subtle weight shift, a calculated angle, a moment where Jack clearly chose not to permanently injure someone when he easily could have. That last part terrifies me more than the violence itself. The humans, all 47 of them currently enrolled in Federation military academies across the galaxy, have become something of a phenomenon, where before they were curiosities, oddities, the newcomers who barely qualified for membership. Now they are watched, studied, evaluated with new eyes. Command staff are quietly reviewing combat doctrine. If one human cadet, not even fully trained, not even considered exceptional by his own species standards, can take down 10 Vexorian warriors in under a minute, what does that mean for human military potential? What happens when thousands of them complete training? Millions? The Vaxorian embassy filed a formal complaint. It went nowhere. The evidence was too clear, the provocation too obvious, and frankly I think the Federation Council is more interested in studying the outcome than punishing it. I see Jack around campus now. He walks the same paths, attends the same classes, eats in the same cafeteria. He nods politely when we make eye contact, offers small smiles to other students, helps underclassmen with their coursework. Everyone gives him space now, not hostile space, not the exclusion he faced before, but respectful distance. The kind you give to something dangerous that has chosen for now to be peaceful. The Vaxorians who fought him have mostly withdrawn from the academy. Drovak left 2 weeks ago, his throat healed but his pride apparently beyond repair. Sheksora and 3 others transferred to different institutions. Only Vorgath remained, and he has become something unexpected. He and Jack are friends now. I saw them in the library yesterday studying together for our tactics examination. Vorgath was laughing at something Jack said, completely at ease, and Jack was sketching out some kind of strategy diagram with the casual competence that seems to define everything he does. It made me think about fear and respect, about how the line between them is thinner than we pretend. The Federation has existed for 2,000 cycles. We have member species from every corner of explored space. We have gas cloud intelligences, hive minds, silicon-based crystalline entities, and everything in between. We pride ourselves on diversity, on inclusion, on the peaceful cooperation of wildly different forms of life. But humans are forcing us to confront something uncomfortable. We have been peaceful for so long that we forgot what danger looks like. We have species that evolved as herbivores, filter feeders, scavengers. Even our warrior cultures like the Vaxorians evolved on worlds where they were the apex, the top of their food chains, dominant since their species gained sentience. Humans evolved while something was actively trying to eat them, while diseases decimated their populations, while their own planet threw hurricanes, earthquakes, volcanoes, and ice ages at them in random succession. They learned to make tools because they had to. They learned to cooperate because they had to. They learned to fight, to endure, to adapt because the alternative was extinction. And then, after millions of cycles of that crucible, they turned those survival skills toward each other. Humans have been fighting humans for their entire recorded history, war after war, conflict after conflict, century after century of competition and violence and innovation driven by the need to overcome other humans. By the time they developed spaceflight, they had refined warfare into an art form. Professor Liss gave a lecture last week, open to all students. The auditorium was packed. She talked about human history, about their world wars that killed millions, about their Cold War where they built enough weapons to destroy their own planet dozens of times over and somehow managed not to use them, about how they went from splitting the atom to walking on their moon in less than 1 generation. Humans are not the strongest species, she said. They are not the smartest, not the longest lived, not the most technologically advanced, but they have something that might be more valuable than any of those traits. They have adaptability. They have determination. They have the ability to face impossible odds and find a way through. She paused, looking out at all of us. The question the Federation must answer is whether we want them as allies or adversaries. Because make no mistake, Humanity will continue to grow, to expand, to push boundaries. They are too restless, too curious, too driven to do otherwise. I think about that a lot now. I think about Jack Chen, who could have killed 10 cadets and chose not to, who could have escalated, could have held a grudge, could have used his newfound reputation to intimidate and dominate. Instead, he goes to class, studies, makes friends, acts like a normal cadet who just wants to serve. That is what frightens the Federation leadership, I suspect. Not the violence humans are capable of, but the restraint they choose to exercise, the control, the calculated decision to be civilized despite having every tool necessary for savagery. We spent so long assuming humans were weak. Now we are learning they are simply patient, and I genuinely cannot decide if that makes me feel safer or more terrified. But I know one thing with absolute certainty: I am very, very glad they are on our side. For now, this incident taught the Federation a lesson evolution never forgets. Survival is not about size or strength, but adaptability, discipline, and restraint. Humans did not dominate their world because they were the strongest, but because they learned when to fight, how to endure, and when to stop.